Hello everyone, welcome to a new mixing tutorial, and let's take a look at my cover of the new Architects banger Animals. I really love this song, and I love it even more now that my cover actually turned out so cool. And I think I feel what you guys sometimes say about my covers making you see the song in a different way. And like it in a different way. That's all I really want from these pieces, is that you can derive more enjoyment from the actual music. I think that's beautiful. All right, enough of that sappy shit. Let's explain the master bus at the end. Already sounds a bit different. And let's go to drums. So for the drum sound, I will send you back to one of the previous mixing tutorials. And that's going to be the Thornhill mixing tutorial for the song Nurture. All right, that's where I develop this kit with Gitgo Drums Invasion. A very metal kit, tons of attack. And one of my favorite drum sounds so far, it involves the Yamaha Recording Custom kit and the Recording Custom brass snare as well. But it's a 13-inch, so it's a little bit high pitch. So I tune it down here in the pitch control settings. You go watch that mixing tutorial, so because I know a lot of you have already, and I don't have to repeat myself. You'll enjoy what I do here, and I'll go over every single plugin. Bass is a mix of programmed and real. So here we got our good friend Eurobass on the verses with guitars to make it sound impossibly big. Very simply put, it's the default Eurobass distortion sound. Into Saturn, not for high-end saturation, but for low-end boost saturation. So between 80 and 300, where there's a lot of that note definition, I boosted that around 50% with the warm tape distortion. It just makes the notes pop off, maybe a little bit too much in retrospect. Makes it a bit warmer and fluffier in that area. And this EQ is where we really shape the sound. So minor stuff, it's mostly about the cuts. At 200 is where I get rid of some of the extra boominess that Saturn put in that area with the distortion. A little bit of a scoop at 800. Nothing to write home about. And the harsh stuff is at 2.2 and at 3.2. This just makes the bass tone a little bit more compact, but still big in the right places to fit the mix. Fits it right in. There's a little bit of a volume drop from gain staging. I don't like to do it here. I just do it in a plugin. I like my faders at 0 so that the automation can all come from 0 when I do it. And then in the verses, it's my real bass, because Eurobass will have that fake attack, and I can't put myself through that. So I shape the DI because the strings are dead. They're fucked. I remove a lot of mid-range honkiness and low-end honkiness, and I try to boost the high end. A little bit of a DI saver there. Into basic bitch, Joel Wanasek bus glue bass, easiest bass tone on earth. Compress your low end, compress your top end, and distort your top end very lightly. And this just makes it fit. There's a little bit too much mid-range on distortion A in that plugin. So I get rid of some of that. Guitar is literally the amp and an EQ. These guitars are brought to you by my new Caesar guitar. this beast with the Evertune is going to make my mixes go to the next level, because if guitars are perfectly in tune and they just lock together, the mix becomes that much more big. And you can tell in places like this how perfectly in tune they are. Lets the whole of your speakers resonate in the same, and the whole of your room resonate with the same strength. That's actually going to be such an important part of the mixing when I use that guitar, because being in tune is underrated. It's everything. So the tone is the Diesel Herbert pack for Tone Hub. Literally the high gain channel 3 using the Hex Drive boost. I changed nothing here. Maybe a bit more bass. Very easy. And this is the whole EQ. 2 harsh spots at 2.2 and 3.8, very lightly cut just to help, and a palm mute control that I always do at around 150 to make sure that the chugs aren't that much more boomy than the normal notes. That's the whole guitar tone. And then one of my favorite things, shout out to the stream, everyone who was on stream, because I recorded this cover on stream. They all suggested I should layer it with the 8th string an octave down. And if it weren't for the chat in stream, I wouldn't have done it. And it really made the breakdown next level. It's unreal how much difference that makes. So that, to complement, I went for the same amp but with a different cabinet. So there's this Diesel which has just a different shape, just so that they contrast a bit. And I EQ'd it like this. I reduced the present spots so that it was just low-end reinforcement, basically. It immediately goes from a main thing to a reinforcement piece that you now blend with the real thing. EQ is just the most powerful tool, man. That's all for rhythm guitars, which is insane. Clean Tone also has 2 plugins. Shout out to Split Coil Bare Knuckle Silos. You literally slap your reverb on it, so a little bit of chorus on the reverb is cool. If you have it on your reverb, turn it on. If you don't, just use a chorus plugin. This is 9 seconds, 40% mix, a little bit of a low-end cut. And yep, shaping it a little bit. Was a bit boomy, needed a bit of brightness. No amp, just good to go. So now for this. So this guy is the same tone as the rhythm, which in retrospect, I could have used something different so that it contrasted. So now what results is that it blends together with the rhythms well, the lead, which is also cool. And the way I do these wet Architects leads is with 100% mix reverb. That's the way I usually do it. Again, 9 seconds cut. It's basically the same reverb as the clean, but 100% wet. And then it's very important that you shape the sound because it's very broadband. Distortion lead into reverb is has a lot of information that you don't need. In the rumble, anything like the lead is so high that I can cut up to 500 hertz. And after that, the fizz can be quite annoying. and the mid-range it's up to taste and up to the mix. Now I can explain the verse ones, which are basically the same thing, but they're quieter and pan left and right, and even more filtered, so that they are not a standout lead, they're a layer. But they're what turns this from Rammstein into Architects. Wow, that was an amazing way to put it. So synths, I created a bunch of cool synths. First of which is this boy that's originally... Oh, this is automated. Fuck it, whatever. Originally, it's a fat brass synth that sounds like this. Ah, this is automated too. It sounds like this. I put an arpeggiator on it so that it plays 16th notes. I got rid of some of the boomy low end, make room for bass. I distorted it. Just grab the high end above 2K with Saturn and destroy it with heavy saturation. Which is so good. And I added Pan Man by Soundtoys. There's free tools that will do this for you. I just make it pan automatically left and right, which makes it so cool. Then there's an EQ that turns on to get rid of high end if I use it in a verse. Man, what a cool effect. The same synth brass is used as the verse synth bass. It's just about removing the high end from it. Yep. Boring. Just a reinforcement. Here we have my favorite thing on earth. Free plugin, by the way. Spitfire Labs Soft Piano. Layer this with your cleans. Oof. Same notes as the clean. Magic. Instant magic. The original vocal hook in the chorus, I didn't want to do it, but it added it. It's such an important part of the chorus, and I needed the vibe of those notes there. So I programmed it into the choir in Expand, and I reverbed it out to all hell, 70%, 5 seconds. And I put it very quiet, and it's just the notes are there filling the space. Cool. And then post-production is just what's all these plugins? Oh, it's the Siren, of course. So here's there's my explosion as usual. No EQ on this bad boy. There's a big snare on the breakdown. Layered with wow, that's big. There's some hi-hats that have Pan Man on them. Really enjoying the automatic panner, man. So good. And what I spent so much time on, the fucking Siren. First I found a Siren sample, pitched it to the correct note, and sped it up. Then it's all about the effects. Got a little bit of distortion, just like the synth, to make it crunchy. The reverb to make it last until the next note. The EQ, just taking some mid-range out so that it doesn't sound honky. Max bass, there was a chat suggestion to get some low end into it. Kind of helps. It's more of, it's like impact low end. It's not even notes, it's just generating some beef. And then a compressor, very fast and very saturated to make sure that the highest note doesn't poke out like all hell. I didn't know it was barely hitting, so joke's on me. That's basically the fucking mix. And a big part of why this cover is slamming so hard is because I pushed the master. These are my usual 5 plugins, but they're gonna be used heavier on this mix because I wanted it to be loud. Except for Gullfoss. Gullfoss always needs to be tame. This is an automatic dynamic EQ that tries to shape your mix into something more hi-fi, and if you overdo it, it actually sounds pretty lit, not gonna lie. But I didn't go for that, and I probably wouldn't, because that would make my verses super strong. Yeah, this just gives you a low end and high end balance difference that is very tasteful. Pumping the compressor. So I usually just like to barely touch it. This is clearly giving it like 2 or 3 dB of work and saturating the steel transformer that gives you subs. Just those 2 plugins on. Huge difference. Linear multiband, I think, is on the usual side. Honestly, here it's just acting like another one of these compressors, but doing too much on one is going to make it sound stupid. So you divide the workload by 2 compressors, and this one just has a little bit of a scooped sound that I like. And then tape is here, and this is something that in retrospect I would have changed, because I was all about the hype and the fatness. So I dialed the amount from my usual 0 to 1, and I put the B tape that really boosts the bass. You're gonna hear this. It's awesome, but in retrospect, I think that was too much. I would, if I wanted to use that to glue the mix, I would have to have turned down the bass. And I'm slamming the limiter. You know how I usually say I like to cut the kick and the snare out, just out of the mix? Not out of the mix, but clip them so that I can bring the guitars up to just before they touch the wall. Here I'm making the wall dig into the guitars, and the guitars are getting crunched by the limiter as well, and that's giving me super loudness. What's the numbers on the chorus, for example? Let's put it here, the loudest part of the mix. Like -4 at points, and the kick and snare being cut as much as 5 to 7 dB. Hell yes. As you guys can see, this mix, if you agree with me, is one of the best I've done, and the methods aren't too different, right? It's just about learning how, when you can push your master, learning what tones really work, because sometimes I have 6 plugins on guitar, and here I literally have 1, if you don't count the amp sim. 1. Which is crazy. Having your shit in tune, because this is always perfectly in tune, and the Evertune as well. It allows things to lock together. It's so tight, man. I'm really happy. And the synth work was good too. So yeah, man, I hope you all have learned something with this mixing tutorial, and leave any comments, suggestions down below. Thank you for your support. I'll see you in the next one.